So as you can see, I have Fusion 360 open, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save this file, and I'm going to make sure it's in the right location that I want. So this is my throttle body spacer. And with that, we're going to take a look at a website real quick and get an idea of what kind of throttle body spacer do we want. So as you can see here, we have a lot of different throttle body spacers. There's a lot of different shapes, sizes, configurations. I'm going to stick with something very basic to start with. That's going to be nothing more than maybe a rectangle, and we may modify that to add some arcs to it with a simple bore in the center. So let's go ahead and switch back to Fusion 360. And as you can see here, we can jump right into our design phase. So the first thing I need to do is I need to make sure I'm in the design workspace. From there, we're going to go ahead and create a sketch. Now, as you can see, that blue line is my Z-axis. I want my Z-axis up just to make my life a little easier. So I'm going to flip down to the top view looking at the XY, and I'm going to pick the XY plane. Now, I'm a big fan of using rectangles to do a lot of what I need to do. And knowing that I have 4 holes in the case of my throttle body spacer, and they're all equally spaced, I'm going to start with that rectangle. So we're going to go ahead and use a rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to a center rectangle. And in this case, I'm actually going to use this as construction lines for my holes. So from there, I'm going to pick my center point, and I'm going to drag outwards. And I'm going to click a second time, creating, as you can see, that construction line rectangle with a center point. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn off construction lines. And I'm going to go back, and we're going to create some circles. And those circles are going to be at all 4 corners where we want those through holes for mounting our actual throttle body spacer. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use a equal constraint, and we are going to tie all 4 of these to each other. And what that does is by hitting escape, we can cancel that tool. But as you can see, if one changes, all 4 change. Another neat thing about this is if I click the construction line and drag it, you can see that it also changes my positioning and my location. So one thing you're noticing me do is I am actually being very imprecise at first, and I'm laying out my design. So I do just want a simple round hole in the center for it to breathe. And then we're also going to add another rectangle in this case. And again, there's a lot of different ways you could do this, but I am just going to trace this around the outside of my part. So let's get into the precision side of creating this drawing. So I'm going to go up to sketch dimension, and I'm going to start by setting my bore. So in this case, I want a 2.5-inch bore. And as you can see, that automatically updated, and then my lines actually changed to the color yellow. Yours will change to black if you're using the white background to signify that it's fully constrained. Again, I'm going to hit escape because I like to position things a little bit better before we get too technical with it. So as you can see me here, I'm just going and dragging everything out a little bit and opening up that box. So again, let's go ahead and use our sketch dimension, and let's set our actual hole size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the inside of my circle, and then I'm going to set that to maybe 3/8 of an inch, and all 4 of those updated. Again, we can kind of rinse and repeat here. If I want to go center of circle to center of circle, or use my construction line, I'm going to go ahead and plug in 2 inches across. In the height side, maybe we're 2.75. And as you can see, I'm now fully constraining things as we go where they're no longer moving. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go off of that center, and I'm going to go out to this outside edge. And with that, I'm going to set it to a 1/2 inch on both sides. So again, I'm going to go to one side and then back to the other. Since I want both these sides the same, one neat thing I could do is I can actually click this first dimension, and you'll see that D5 appear. And what that D5 is telling the software is this dimension is the dimension I want here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Now, bottom side again, we're going to go ahead and just stick with what we've got here. Let's actually go 375 down here. And then from the top side, again, to center of that circle, I'm going to go ahead and click that dimension down here for 375 and hit enter. So at this point, we are fully constrained because we did start off of our origin. Everything is tied to it. So if you see me here, I'm clicking and I'm dragging and I can't move anything because everything is tied together and fully constrained. So our one neat thing about this is now that we've actually set our dimensions, if I wanted to go in and actually set this also to 375 and hit enter, you'll notice my other side has updated because that dimension is fixed. So again, how you sketch out your drawing is very important. However, I am going to give most people the warning that you don't want to go in and trim a bunch of this. And the reason for that is at the sketch level, nobody's going to see it once we turn it into a model. So let's turn this into a model. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Finish Sketch. I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to hit Extrude. I like to get a little more of an isometric view, but I'm going to go ahead and pick the profiles or the boundaries that I want. So as you can see, as I'm picking the entire outside of my part, and I want a 3/4 inch thick throttle body spacer. So I'm typing in 0.75. In the event that you actually go negative, don't worry, guys. It'll just go the opposite direction down. We're just building one part. So which direction we do to create that initial body is not a big deal. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And as you can see, we made a block with some holes in it. Well, now let's make it a little bit prettier and a little bit nicer. I'm going to go over here to the Modify tab, and you're going to see that we have the Fillet tool. I'm going to go ahead and fillet the 4 corners around the outside. Now, I am a huge fan of doing fillets when it comes to the model level, not doing my fillets actually when we're doing things at the sketch level, because that is going to involve trimming things and breaking some of our constraints. Another thing I may want to do is, just so nobody cuts their hands when they handle this part, let's go ahead and add some chamfers. So I'm going to go ahead and chamfer all of my holes the same size. So again, as I'm just picking that top edge of each hole, looks like I misclicked that one, so we're going to reselect it. And then I'm going to add a 30 thou chamfer or spot drill to those edges. But then I'm going to add more chamfers. So let's go ahead and hit that plus sign. And I'm going to do the outer ring at 0.015. And then we're going to leave the inner completely alone. And just like that, as you guys can see, I very quickly created my throttle body spacer. However, if I ever need to go back and update anything, this is kind of a neat thing. So if I go down to my timeline at the bottom, I can go back to the sketch that we originally created, or I could find my sketch over here in my design tree and open it up. Now let's say I actually need this width to be 2 1/4. I would like this dimension over here to be 3 inches. And then from there, I would actually like to go to a much smaller bore. And as soon as I hit Finish Sketch, because of how my timeline is laid out, it still works through the process and fixed all those things. So I hope this is a good intro video for all of you. Don't forget to hit like, follow, and subscribe so that you guys can stay up to date on more content like this.